If you're just jumping into the 1.0 version of Cesto, let me tell you right now, this is the kind of game that looks simple at first, but hides a ton of details that can completely change your run. The truth is, if you just play on instinct, you're going to miss a lot of important stuff. So, in this video, I've put together 10 advanced tips that actually make a difference, whether it's for leveling up faster, making better decisions, or simply understanding systems the game doesn't explain very well. If you want to play Cesto much more intelligently, stay with me until the end, because there are tips here that probably would have saved several of your attempts. Let me tell you something that cost me an entire run before I figured it out. In Cesto, especially now in 1.0, not every golden chest is what it seems. There's a creature called a mimic that stays disguised exactly like a gold chest, waiting for you to get close with that greed for loot. And yes, I fell for it head first the first time. The difference is subtle, but once you learn it, you'll never fall for it again. The secret is in the lips. Mimics move their lips slightly from time to time or give a small twitch, an almost imperceptible tremor. It seems like nothing, but in a game where every detail matters, this is a golden tip. Literally. Real chests stay completely static, with no movement at all. Zero. If you notice any tiny animation on that chest, you can bet it's going to attack you before you even get close. This becomes even more critical from Biome 3 onwards, which is where mimics start appearing more frequently and in tenser situations. You're already tired, probably with limited resources, and the temptation to grab a gold chest is huge. That's exactly where the game tests you. So before advancing toward any golden chest at this stage of the map, stop for 2 seconds and watch. Just 2 seconds. Developing this habit of looking before acting can be the difference between finishing a solid run or losing everything because of a stupid encounter that was completely avoidable. In roguelites, information is power, and knowing what's waiting for you before making a decision is exactly the kind of thing that separates those who get stuck from those who truly go far in Cesto. Look, I know everyone wants to play fair, but Cesto has a dirty little secret that the game literally puts right in front of you and waits for you to notice. In the shop, you can pull the shopkeeper's nose. That's right, you pull the guy's nose, he gets stunned for a few seconds, and in that time, you grab an item for free. It's ridiculous. It's genius. And the first time I did it, I just stared at the screen, not believing it worked. But there's a consequence that's both comical and serious. After you do this, he wears a bandage on his nose for the rest of the run, like a visual reminder of what you did. And as expected, prices go up a bit after that. So yes, cheating has a cost, and the game doesn't let you forget it. Is it worth it? It depends on what you grab, but a free item at any point in a run can change everything. Now, there's an even more aggressive version of the strategy circulating in the community, killing the shopkeeper with an arrow or a bomb to steal the entire stock. It sounds tempting, especially in runs where you're desperate, but the price is high. You lose all future shops for that run. It's a gambler's move, and most of the time it's not worth the risk, unless you're already in a dead-end situation and need a miracle. My recommendation is to use the nose strategically. Save that card for a moment when there's an expensive item in the shop that would change the course of your run and you simply don't have enough gold. That's the perfect moment to be slightly dishonest. In roguelites, every resource saved is one step closer to the end, and knowing when to use this trick is just as important as knowing it exists. Cesto 1.0 has one of the most underrated items I've ever seen in a roguelite, the flute. The first time I picked it up, I stared at it, not knowing what to do. There's no clear tutorial, no obvious explanation. You literally need to discover it or look it up. And that's exactly what made me realize that the flute is one of the game's most powerful secrets, hidden in plain sight for anyone who doesn't bother to understand how it works. Its system is based on short and long taps, like a musical code. Short taps use lowercase letters, long taps use uppercase, and different combinations produce completely distinct effects. Steam has a complete guide with all the combinations, and I strongly recommend you save it before entering a serious run. We're talking about effects ranging from healing to probability rerolls and even sending gold straight back to camp. It's not just any item, it's a decision-making tool. What makes the flute so special and yet so demanding is that you usually only get one strong use per run, so you can't just play it without thinking. You need to know exactly what you need at that specific moment of the run and execute the right combination. Using it at the wrong time, or worse, wasting it because you didn't remember the sequence, is one of the most frustrating mistakes you can make. So the advice is simple. Before playing for real with the flute, study the combinations. You don't need to memorize everything, but knowing the 3 or 4 most useful ones, healing, reroll, and sending gold straight back to camp, already puts you a level above most players. In a roguelite where a single resource can turn the tide of an entire run, mastering the flute isn't optional. It's an advantage you can't let pass by. If there's one thing Sol Cesto doesn't explain to you directly, it's that the second biome plays by different rules. When I first went in there unprepared, I got wrecked. The monsters are more aggressive, more resistant, and they seem to absorb physical damage like it's nothing. I kept trying the same approach from the first biome and paid dearly for it. It was only when I started paying attention to enemy patterns that I realized what was happening. Most high-level monsters in the second biome have a clear weakness to magic attacks. And when I say weakness, I'm not talking about a small damage bonus. I'm talking about enemies that become almost harmless when you show up with magic at the right level. The problem is that many people pass by the blacksmith without investing in this, focusing on physical attack or defense out of habit. And then they reach Biome 2 completely unprepared for what's ahead. The tip is direct. Before entering the second biome, raise your magic power to at least 3 at the blacksmith. This is the number that makes a real difference. With magic at 3 or higher, a good portion of the difficult encounters that usually destroy runs at this stage become manageable, sometimes even easy. It's the kind of upgrade that seems expensive at the time, but pays for itself in just a few combats. In roguelites, preparation is everything. There's no point in reaching the second biome with leftover gold and the wrong stats. The blacksmith exists to be used strategically, and investing in magic before this specific biome is one of the smartest decisions you can make in Sol Cesto. Learn this early, and your runs will last much longer. The game has a synergy that took me a long time to discover on my own, and when I did, I got that feeling of, why didn't I try this before? The warrior has a special ability called sun power, and for a long time I used it in isolation without thinking about combinations. It was during a desperate run, with monsters piling up on the field, that I tried combining it with an arrow almost on impulse. The result was a vertical clear that saved that run. What happens in practice is this. When you use the arrow or the bomb in conjunction with sun power, the effect propagates vertically on the selected tile, eliminating or damaging monsters in a line. This transforms an ability that seems situational into something much more impactful depending on enemy positioning. In Sol Cesto, where grid positioning makes all the difference, being able to clear an entire column of threats with a single combo is absurdly valuable. What makes this combination even more useful is the precision it offers. If there's a dangerous monster positioned at the back of the tile, out of your normal reach, the arrow with sun power works like a surgical snipe. You don't need to risk getting close, you don't need to waste turns repositioning, you simply solve the problem from afar, cleanly and efficiently. The lesson here goes beyond the combo itself. Sol Cesto rewards those who think about synergy between items and abilities before acting. Saving the arrow for the right moment instead of using it on the first monster that appears is an exercise in patience that makes all the difference. When sun power and the arrow meet at the ideal moment, you're not just attacking, you're controlling the entire field in your favor. One of the most hidden mechanics is the attraction system, which basically controls the probabilities of what appears in your path during a run. Chests, healing strawberries, traps, damage types, all of this has a weight behind it that most players ignore completely. I spent several runs thinking it was just bad luck when traps appeared with absurd frequency, until I realized you could actively manipulate this. Cursed teeth are the key to this manipulation. When you find these items, they directly alter the attraction probabilities of what will appear on the map. And what sounds like a curse in the name hides a powerful strategic tool once you understand what each tooth does. Some reduce the chance of falling into traps. Others increase the frequency of chests and healing strawberries appearing in your path. This completely changes the dynamic of a run. What the community has already discovered and is using as meta is exactly this: stacking trap reduction with chest and strawberry increases at the same time. When you manage to put this combination together, the run starts to flow differently. Fewer frustrating interruptions from traps, more resources coming in naturally. It's the difference between a run where you fight the map and a run where the map works for you. So next time you see a cursed tooth and hesitate to pick it up thinking it's something negative, stop and read what it does. The name is scary, but the effect might be exactly what your run needs. Understanding the attraction system and consciously shaping it is the kind of knowledge that elevates your game from someone who reacts to what appears to someone who anticipates what they will find ahead. When I first saw the mage, I'll be honest, I wasn't excited. His start is slow, his damage seems inconsistent, and compared to other classes, he gives the impression he'll let you down in critical moments. I ended up leaving him aside for several runs, preferring characters that seemed more reliable right away. It was a mistake that took me too long to recognize. The mage has an ability that completely changes how you think about clearing rooms. He converts powerful monsters into safe tiles. Instead of facing a difficult enemy head-on and risking damage, you transform the threat into a safe space on the grid. This is absurdly powerful in situations where the room is full and positioning is unfavorable. The mage doesn't fight the map, he rewrites the map. The secret is reaching that potential. With high magic power, the mage's efficiency in clearing rooms is one of the best in the game. Monster conversion works better the more you invest in magic, so the blacksmith is your best friend with this class. Defensive runs with the mage, where you prioritize magic upgrades and use conversions strategically, result in some of the smoothest matches I've ever had in Cesto. So if you haven't given the mage a real chance yet, change that mindset that he's weak. He's not weak, he's different, and he requires you to play in a more patient and calculated way. When you understand that his goal isn't to eliminate everything with brute force, but to control the field and turn threats into opportunities, he stops looking like a risky choice and becomes one of the most consistent options for those who want solid defensive runs. Cesto is the kind of game that rewards those who pay attention to details that most people simply ignore. I was one of those people for a long time. I'd pass through the well room, deposit my coins, and move on without looking at the environment around me. It was only when I saw someone mentioning hidden Easter eggs in the game that I started exploring the scenery in a different way. And that's when I found the protruding golden brick in the wall. What appears to be just a decorative visual detail is actually an interactive secret. By repeatedly clicking on this specific brick in the well room, you can receive extra gold, healing, or even an item once per run. There's no warning, no obvious indication that it does anything. The game simply puts it there and expects you to be curious enough to test it. And when the reward appears on the screen for the first time, that sense of discovery is genuinely satisfying. What caught my attention after this discovery is that the golden brick isn't an isolated case. Sol Celesto has several of these small Easter eggs scattered throughout the levels, visual details that hide interactions and rewards for those who stop for a second to investigate. This changes the way you look at every room. Every corner of the map becomes an open question. So the advice here goes beyond the brick itself. Develop the habit of exploring environments with curiosity. In roguelites packed with secrets like Sol Celesto, the players who get the furthest aren't necessarily the most skilled in combat, but those who accumulate the most information about how the game world works. An extra item or an unexpected heal at the right moment can be exactly what separates a run that ends early from one that goes all the way. There's a threshold that completely changes what the game can do against you, and most players pass through it without realizing what happened. Reaching Magic Power 4 isn't just another number in your stats, it's a game changer. I noticed this in a run where I reached the third biome with high magic almost by accident, prioritizing blacksmith upgrades along the way. And suddenly, the things that used to worry me simply stopped being a problem. With magic at level 4 or higher, you gain resistances that practically make you immune to some of the most frustrating threats in the game. Black holes, which in the final biome are responsible for destroying the runs of unprepared players, lose their power to harm you. Mimics, those treacherous chests we already learned to identify by their lips, also start doing much less damage to you. It's as if the game recognizes you invested in the right path and rewards you with an extra layer of protection. The goal, then, is clear. Reach the third biome with magic at 4. This requires you to treat magic upgrades at the blacksmith as a priority from the very beginning of the run, not as something secondary you pick up when you have leftover gold. Every opportunity to increase magic before that point is an investment that will pay off at the most difficult and decisive moment of the match. What makes this tip especially powerful is that it doesn't require a specific build or a rare combination of items. It's a concrete goal, a number you can consciously chase in any run. And when you get there, the feeling of walking through the final biome knowing that certain threats simply can't reach you anymore is one of the best Sol Cesto has to offer. Magic 4 isn't optional for those who truly want to go far in this game. One of the first things Sol Cesto does is give you the illusion of total control over what's going to happen. You look at the grid, see the available squares, and start trying to calculate exactly where you're going to land. I did this for many runs, standing still trying to guess the right square as if it were possible to predict the draw. It was only when I stopped thinking about the individual square and started thinking about the entire line that my game changed. The mechanic works like this. The game draws which square in the line you will stop on, and you don't control that draw. What you do control is which line to choose, and that is the decision that actually matters. A line with 2 chests and 2 enemies has a completely different risk-reward profile than a line with 3 enemies and a trap. The composition of the line tells you everything you need to know about what to expect, even without knowing the exact square where you'll land. When you shift your focus to this analysis, you start making much more consistent decisions. Instead of wasting energy trying to guess the unguessable, you evaluate the set. Which line offers the most reward with the least risk? Which one has a combination of elements you can handle regardless of where the draw places you? These are the right questions, and they have concrete answers based on what's visible on the screen. This mindset shift is subtle, but the impact on your runs is real. Players who think in squares get frustrated with the draw as if the game is playing against them. Players who think in lines work with the system instead of fighting it. Sol Cesto isn't a guessing game. It's a game of probability and risk management, and understanding that the line is the correct unit of decision is one of the most important steps to playing consistently and intelligently.